Welcome in, you guys, to another One Piece post-game show. What we'd like to do here is that we like to read through the comment section of the previous spoiler video just to see what everybody's talking about. What are we yapping about today? What theories are we cooking up? What stands out the most from chapter 1177 to everybody down in the comment section? It's time to find out together. So with that being said, ripping off the band-aid, the top comment, it says, Emu. Ah, yes, the forest god. One of the only other allies of Joy Boy that could negate my powers. Haven't seen you since the Hane era. Crazy JJK reference. Yes, as you can see, and I did skim through some of these comments already, a lot of people are slobbering on the knob that Chopper is the forest god coming off of this chapter. How do I feel about the theory? Well, I actually really enjoy it. You know, I am also there standing in line ready to slobber on it, brother. I mean, here's the thing, right? For the longest time, Chopper, he's kind of been a weird character where he has the human fruit. He doesn't look like a human. Blackbeard, first introduced in Drum Island. We don't know why he was there. Was he passing by? Was he looking for Chopper? We don't really know. Dr. Kureha, Chopper's mentor, also a very strange character because she was the first person who ever mentioned the D initial within Roger's name and talked about the will of D. So Drum Island, man, it is a breeding ground for theories. And Chopper in this chapter was able to one-tap a Domiverse giant. He literally slapped the shadow out of him and turned him back to normal. What the hell is going on here? A lot of people are leaning towards Chopper being the forest god as the answer. And like I said, it's not bad because we had the Harley text where it talked about how the forest god tamed the demons and sent them against the sun god. And it's like, okay, that was one of the four gods that was mentioned back in Skypiea. Eventually, we're going to have to meet them, right? We have the sun god, aka Luffy. So with that introduction out of the way, all we need are the other three gods, the forest god being one of them. If Chopper turns out to be that guy, it would be a nice buff. Personally, I'd be very curious as to how Oda would tackle the power scaling aspect of Chopper if he did turn out to be the forest god. Like, all of a sudden, would Chopper just be like top 2 on the crew? Or no? Are we going to go the route where the forest god isn't exactly a fighter? Maybe the forest god is more of a medicinal person, which would be nice, right? Just because you're a god doesn't mean you're all powerful. You know, maybe the forest god specialized in medicine. Maybe the forest god was just good at taming animals, right? You don't have to be a fighter just because you're a god. So I do think there are a lot of ways where this could work and it would fit really nicely. And, you know, throwing it back to Rox Dizabek, Rox mentioned that there were 2 devil fruits he needed to get his hands on. One of them was Loki's Nidhogg fruit. What was the second devil fruit? I think the safe assumption is to say that he was after the sun god Nika fruit, because it does seem like a direct counter to Emu's abilities, but we don't know that for sure, right? It's still just a hypothesis. So there is a good chance that maybe, just maybe, Blackbeard - Roxy Zebek was going after Chopper's devil fruit all along. We'll see. You know, like I said, this is not a bad theory whatsoever, but with that being said, I will admit I am afraid of this theory being wrong. Like, what would the community reaction be if Chopper didn't do anything special in this latest chapter? Because we're coming hot off of the heels of a Frankie upgrade. Robin just got the O'Hara books in Saul again. Usopp is getting his moment. Brook is getting a flashback. So many Straw Hats are progressing upwards in the story in terms of power scaling or just narrative importance. I think Chopper deserves that, right? I think all the Straw Hats do. If we dial it back and Oda says, oh, Chopper didn't do anything special, he just found out the cure to Domiverse instead, I feel like that would leave a semi-sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, because as we go down, you guys will see a lot of people love Forest God Chopper. So if the opposite happens and he's not the Forest God, I'm afraid of the community backlash. Personally, when it comes to One Piece, I take things on the chin. I mean, you guys know this 1000%, right? Dude, you guys have followed me on the ups and downs of the Barbell agenda, the Ange agenda, the God Knight agenda. Yeah, I'll complain jokingly, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. You know, we roll with the punches here, man. So if Chopper doesn't turn out to be the Forest God, I'll be okay with it. But because so many people are just loving it, I am somewhat afraid what would happen if this doesn't turn out to be true. So this one says, the Chopper is the forest god theory is looking really good right now. I agree. Mr. Prince basically calling Killingham a small fry is emotional damage to Size gang and his agenda. It is. But hear me out. Killingham said, take his words at face value. He said, underestimate us while you can, insects. Who knows, man? Who knows? Maybe there's a second awakening in the books. Maybe the other god knights that we haven't met yet are 50 times as powerful. Ha ha ha. Dude, the only thing right now that could save the god knight agenda, minus, an extra emu power-up, would be if the other god knights show up and they make fun of Killingham. The other god knights show up, they say, oh, Killingham. Looks like the new recruit is struggling. Oh, Killingham. Losing again, are we? You couldn't best me once. You could never touch the other god knights. The loser of the bunch is an Elbaf. You hear that, guys? What a knee slapper. That would be the only way to make, Killingham's performance feel okay. And again, I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, it just shows that the Straw Hats are stronger. Yes. I agree with that. But at the end of the day, the God Knights didn't have to take a hit to show that the Straw Hats were strong. Two things can be true at the same time. The God Knights can be powerful, and the Straw Hats could also be very powerful, and they can simply acknowledge each other's strength. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I will admit, it was pretty funny seeing Killingham decapitated here, and Sanji's just straight up sitting on his body. This comment says, next chapter, God Knights, Bon Kai break next week. Okay, yeah. It's like my alt account right here. Yeah. Bon Kai break next week. Dude, I would go ballistic. This says, Nami scolding Luffy and Loki is hilarious. Probably based from Oda's own experience with his wife. Yeah, it's just one of those things, brother, When you get scolded, you take it on the chin, and you let it out on other people, which is exactly what Luffy did. And also, Loki did that too, Luffy yelled at Loki, and Loki blasted Luffy with the thunder breath, which, kind of crazy when you really think about it, but that's just how Loki is, man. He is a little bit of a tsundere. This says, Chopper slapping the Domi Reversi out of the giant is crazy work. Maybe he is the natural enemy of Emu with his Hito no Mi. Yeah, and what's so interesting about this is that if Chopper is the natural enemy of Emu because of his devil fruit, that should also be true for Gecko Moria, because Chopper literally slapped the shadow out of him. So, dude, imagine Moria against these Domi Reversied people. He realistically could just flip them upside down and just call it a day. Maybe that is why Emu dashed Doflamingo dashed the higher ups of Marie-Jean. We don't really know who gave the order, but maybe that right there is another reason why they wanted to get rid of Gecko Moria at Marineford, because they knew his potential. Kozuki Moria, damn it, his stocks just keep on going up. This has the wings of the Pirate King standing on business on Elbaf. One is murdering giants, and the other is putting a world noble in his place. Yeah, we are those guys, man. Like I said, it's bittersweet. When it comes to Killingham being folded, on one hand, it's like, no, my villains! But on the other hand, I am a big Zoro and Sanji fan, so it's like, well, at least they look cool, right? At the end of the day, I feel like no matter what side you are, when it comes to agendas, you can have fun with it, right? It's a win-win situation, more or less. This says, the Straw Hats are tying up the God Knights like Orange Island Buggy. Technically Orange Town, Orange Island. I forgot the name of the island, but it's Orange Town. What island is it? Oh my god. All right, so I looked it up and I got the answer right here. But get this, the island that Orange Town is located in is actually called the Oregon Islands. Yes, that's right. You simply remove the E and call it a day. You can tell Oda did not give an F about that one. This says, Emu's first interaction with Luffy is our battle will be legendary. Yeah, dude. Emu saying that this battle will divide the world, that means something. Because at first I was like, oh, will Emu simply leave? Will he back down? What's gonna happen here? But it seems like Emu is putting their foot down saying, oh, we're fighting and this right here will decide everything. So I'm really curious, but does Emu lose? I can't see Emu getting walloped. I really can't. But then again, I also couldn't see the God Knights getting walloped, so, I'm a really bad judge when it comes to One Piece fights. But I don't know, beating the final boss, even though they're nerfed, would be kind of crazy. But they are like severely nerfed with Gunko. Realistically, I feel like the most middle ground answer I can find is that Emu dominates via power, but then Luffy, Loki, Brook, maybe even Usopp, they pierce all the way through to Gunko's heart-soul, and they send Emu home through that means. So it's like a draw in a weird way, right? Where Emu looks good, but also the Straw Hats win, and they are able to save Elbaf. I think that's like the perfect middle ground. But we'll see. I just can't imagine Elbaf falling during this battle. But then again, the Harley text did have like a lightning bolt going through the tree, but that didn't necessarily destroy the tree from what we saw. Tough. I just feel like this is the home of so many people. Like, let's say Elbaf gets destroyed. Where the hell are the Giants gonna go? You know what I mean? Where's Scopper gonna go? I think that's one of the main reasons why I don't think Elbaf is gonna fall. And plus, we haven't been to the Heaven Realm. No, Elbaf is gonna be fine. Elbaf is gonna be fine. I think Emu's also going to be fine. We're gonna find a way to simply send Emu packing. This says, Usopp rage baiting and forcing Emu, the biggest rage baiter of history, to fight hand-to-hand combat will be so peak. I'm excited, dude. Hey, we saw something brand new from Emu in this chapter, and I was really happy at that. The fact that Emu could simply put their hand out and freeze Brook in place, I thought that was kind of cool. You know, that is a brand new Emu ability. It reminds me of what Saint Saturn did, but of course, instead of using their eyes, it was like the Force instead, man. It was the Force. Almost all the Straw Hats are getting the respect they deserve. Sanji, Frankie, and Usopp got their moments to shine in this arc. I would include Robin too. You know, I really did enjoy Robin versus St. Summers. Yes, she lost, but I think Robin taking initiative and running towards St. Summers, it was actually quite nice in my opinion. And soon, I bet we'll even be able to add Chopper to the list. We could probably add Zoro to the list. I do think Elbaf will be an arc for all of the Straw Hats. You know, even when it comes to Usopp, I don't think that this is where Usopp peaks in Elbaf. I think this is just the beginning. Guys, lock in. We're in for a good ride. Emu has that Gecko Moria mindset, but he also has the power to fight when needed. Hey, Gecko Moria had it too. You know, Shadow Asgard. That was great, man. Of course, he couldn't really hold in the shadows, but hey. He looked good for a punch or two. He did. Which I am excited, you know. Second time we're talking about Gecko Moria in this video. But when we see Gecko Moria again, I think he will be that guy. I do think that he locked in. He's going to look probably like how he did when he was in his prime. Because here's the thing. It is very odd that Oda did not show us Gecko Moria escaping Hachinosu. We know that he did escape because of the dialogue that Blackbeard gave us. And we also know that Kobe and Perona were the ones who got him out of his cell. And it's like, yo, why didn't we see it? Why didn't Oda give us one panel of Gecko Moria? It might be because Gecko Moria pulled an Uncle Iroh. I'll die on that hill, brother. That's another agenda that I'm ready to take a big fat L on. You better lock in, man. Loki being scared of Nami is the strongest evidence yet for Loki as Nakama. It's basically a requirement for our men on the crew to be afraid of Nami. Hey, I think most people will be afraid of Nami. You know, if Nami scolds you, you back down no matter what. So now, getting back to the brass tacks of it, Loki for Straw Hat. My opinion hasn't really changed. I think it would be really cool if Loki joined the crew. I just don't think he will. I think he's way too powerful to actually join as an official member. If he joins the Grand Fleet, or if he allies with the Straw Hats, yeah, I could see that easily. But as far as like hopping on the Thousand Sunny, you know, riding alongside us from island to island, I don't think so. I feel like he's too crazy, man. He's way too crazy. But then again, you know, Roger had Douglas Bullet, and he was kind of an oddball too. So we'll see. You know, I wouldn't hate it. Let's not forget about bounty inflation that Robin mentioned. Brook's bounty of 33 million when he was alive means he has always been him. I am curious, you know, let's go back to Dorian Brogy's bounty, and then let's apply it to Brook. All right, so I looked up what the estimates would be if we applied the same multiplier that we got for Dorian Brogy to Brook, and people, you know, these are all theories, right? Rough estimates. They're saying he could be anywhere from 600 million to 900 million berries, which isn't bad. That's not bad. Unfortunate, though, that his current bounty doesn't reflect the inflation rate, right? For Dorian Brogy, the world government looked at it and said, oh, shoot, let's apply inflation. But then they look at Brook's bounty and they're like, hey, let's not apply inflation here, which is kind of odd, right? You think they would have given Brook the same treatment. The mushroom that cures everything must be Chopper's devil fruit, since it looks like a mushroom. Blackbeard also came to Drum Kingdom for that fruit. Chopper's fruit is special and can cure anything. Yeah, it's because of the live action. The live action is where they mentioned the all cure mushroom, and I think people are really running with that. I don't hate it. Of course, we do know that Oda has like a slight hand in the OPLA. So if that was a hint towards this, wouldn't be bad. Looking over at Chopper's potential Blackbeard matchup being Doc Q, who can create an illness out of everything, Chopper curing anything, I think would be a really great matchup. I just hope that this Devil Fruit scales with Chopper's knowledge. Whatever Chopper has, I hope it's not one of those things where it instantly propels him to insane levels of power scaling or just medicinal wizardry. I hope Chopper still has to learn a little bit about the world, about medicine, practical skills, and etc. to become that guy. I just don't want it to be a crutch, which I think is a problem most people don't really care about. But it's like, dude, I like it, man. Kind of like Law's Ope Ope no Mi, where Doflamingo mentioned that, yes, the fruit is great, but you still gotta be a doctor. You still gotta know what you're doing. I hope Chopper's all cure fruit or Forest God fruit kind of works in that same manner, so that Chopper still has a reason to keep evolving himself. It's all about the journey. Chopper is the all cure. This one says, now that you mention it, if I remember back in the Zoe arc, when the Straw Hats get to know the Blackbeard Pirates are hunting for devil fruits, at that moment, Chopper was scared and was screaming, they're coming after me! But at that moment, we didn't care at all. But in Elbaf, things are looking differently. Yes, this was a big thing. Believe it or not, people did talk about this back in Zoe. Because Chopper, like you said, he had the gag where he said, oh my god, the Blackbeard Pirates want me! And then, I think it was Usopp. He said, nobody wants your human fruit. We'll see about that. We'll see about that, man. Killingham was dying inside when Jinbei was touching his head. Oh, 100%. I mean, here's the thing, right? Because we're looking at this through the lens of anime, manga, drawings, pictures, etc., Jinbei and the Fishman look cool. But in the One Piece live action, ooh, I don't know, man. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they got sticky fingers. They're always wet. I bet they're a little bit slimy. Yeah, I remember watching the OPLA season 1, and one of my main takeaways coming out of Arlong Park is, man, I think I'd also be racist. Just like a little bit, right? Until like a Jinbei or something. Woo, one of those guys rolls up on your island. I don't know, brother. I don't know. I could see how it could happen. Usopp, rage-baited god. I can see Chopper's awakening being him with the ability to spread humanity back to those he touches. Yeah, I think somebody mentioned it in a different video or a comment section, but they mentioned how Oda talked about how if somebody were to eat the Hito no Mi, Chopper's devil fruit, they'd simply become an enlightened human. Let me find that real quick. It's one thing to say something. I usually like to have some sort of evidence to back it up. Oh my god, we're going so far back in the past. Sorry. I'm like looking this up on the side. Volume 20, huh? Volume 20 SBS. Here we go. Volume 20. What would happen if a human eats the Hito no Mi? I suppose I should say they become human. I guess you could say that means like becoming an adult or finding your true spirit or something. Basically, people will live more human-like. Well, I guess you could say that or not, basically. Goodbye, have fun, runs away. Runs away, interesting. Yeah, so I'm assuming the enlightened part that people usually talk about, it stems from this right here where Oda says you find your true spirit, which, obviously Japanese, English, things get wishy-washy, so this being enlightenment, fascinating. Killingham isn't a fist fighter, so I think it's fine that he loses. He uses the sleep monsters to fight for him and relies on regen for defense. That is a fair way to look at it. That was a possibility, right? He is like a mage class fighter. He's all about long distance, mid distance. He's like Kankuro from Naruto, if you guys, are familiar with that. And that's cool. But we do know that he can throw hands. I will say that though, right? Because we did see that he picked up Principal Kiba and he slammed him into the ground. So Killingham, he's not that weak. I think he could throw hands if need be. He even has a trident. Save the God Knight agenda for Garland Shamrock. Oh my god, yeah. Dude, people, man. I will say this. Because the God Knights here in Elbaf haven't been looking good, Shamrock is taking splash damage from that. Because Shamrock was hanging out with the boys earlier in this arc, people are like, yo, Shamrock, come outside, man. Especially because he, sicked his Cerberus on Loki, and he said he could beat Loki even if he was unchained. It's like, man, people are not too high on Shamrock right now, but I am. Hey, I am. For the agenda, for the fun, I believe in Shamrock. I think we can only go up the escalation scale right now. Oda must have something planned. He is making the situation seem so easy for a reason. Could be, it's one of those things where it could be something, could be nothing. Oda could simply say that he wants to showcase the Straw Hats are a Yonko crew now. Or perhaps he is, waiting for a big plot twist. Come next chapter, I think we'll finally know what Oda's doing. Now that Emu is taking center stage. So we'll definitely find out. Chopper's Devil Fruit was a mushroom. In his backstory, there was a myth of the all-cure mushroom on Drum Island. Luffy's Drum of Liberation theory was of him playing the mountains there as drums. Yeah, this one is kind of silly. Just like giant Luffy just slapping the island. Could happen. Theoretically, Luffy could do that with any island because he just rubberizes the environment around him. So technically anything could be a bongo drum if Luffy wanted it to be. As far as this right here, yeah, we talked about it before, all cure mushroom. It's not a bad theory. It's just funny because, going back to the chapter, which I have it pulled up right here, they say mushroom, which you see the phallic shape. Yeah, there's some mushroom that grows only on this island. It may or may not be effective against all sorts of illnesses. That's hilarious, brother. That is so funny. Like, yes, this might help you, but it also might just not do anything. It's such a wishy-washy one. It's like a rumor you hear at a bar. I like how Emu admits that this is going to be a battle for a character who has been extremely cocky and confident. It's refreshing to hear them admit that this will take effort. Yeah. I mean, it's probably one of those things too, where Emu looks at Luffy and Loki and he's like, yep, the God Knights aren't going to help me with this, man. I got to be the one to put them down. And I do think Emu will do really well in this battle. I do want to end the video off by saying that I think Emu will perform extraordinarily well. And that's because they have knowledge. Emu most likely fought the previous user of the Nidhogg fruit. Emu fought Joy Boy, who had the Nika fruit. Emu knows what they're doing. Emu has seen the peaks of these powers. So seeing Luffy, seeing Loki with these abilities, I don't think Emu's really gonna sweat that much. I bet Emu, well, this is like a wish on a star. I could see Emu saying, oh, Luffy, you haven't even unlocked Gear 6 yet? Oh, Joy Boy was much stronger than this. Joy Boy could do that. Joy Boy could do this. Oh, Loki, you don't even know what Nidhogg is, do you? You still think you're the sun god? Ha ha ha. Yeah, Emu, I think could be a massive shit talker, but we'll see, guys. That is it for me today, though, guys. Let me know your thoughts on all of this down below. Appreciate you guys for stopping in, checking out this video all the way until the end. I really freaking appreciate it. And of course, come tomorrow, the next day, we'll be doing a prediction video for chapter 1178. So make sure to drop your one-line predictions as a response to the top comment, which will be pinned. It'll be me. So yes, again, thank you all for watching. Peace out and stay safe.